This meeting is now called to order. Township Council Workshop, Monday, June 8, 2020. Mayor Damiano, lead us in a salute to the flag, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mrs. Kraus, please read the statement of public notice.
Take notice that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with NJSA 10:4-10 as follows. The notice of the meeting was prominently posted on the bulletin board at the municipal building located at 225 Main Street, Little Falls, New Jersey on January 9, 2020. A copy of the notice was faxed to the North Jersey Herald and News and the Record on the same date. Additionally, a copy of the notice was filed in the office of the township clerk on said date. This meeting is being conducted under the circumstances surrounding the COVID-19 health situation. No public will be allowed to attend the meeting in person. A YouTube link to view this meeting can be accessed on the township website at www.lfnj.com. Electronic provisions have been established for the public to participate during the public comment portion of the meeting.
Mrs. Kraus, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Coordinator? Here. Councilmember Kawadi?
Present.
Councilmember Sieber? Present. Councilmember Venturi?
Present.
Council President Scoba?
Present. Please let the record show that Chief Post and Councilor Wenzel is also attending the meeting. At this time, Mayor Damiano has a statement. Mayor?
Yes, thank you, Council President. The statement being made is in connection to the death of George Floyd, and I thank you, Council President, for providing me with this opportunity to make this statement here. The Little Falls Police Department, Chief Steve Post, the Township Council, and I were stunned with the senseless act of violence that took place in Minneapolis, which resulted in the death of Mr. George Floyd. We wish to express our deepest condolences and sympathies to the family and friends of Mr. Floyd. His death has shocked and angered people across the country and around the world. The Little Falls Police Department and our administration are committed to protecting the civil rights of all. We stand in solidarity in defiance of racism. Each member of our police department is committed to the highest level of professionalism and respect that our community both deserves and expects. We stand with those peacefully protesting and stand against those who are motivated by hatred and violence. We ask you to join us to help foster an environment where we can come together as one community. It is our turn to listen, to learn, and to help. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mayor Damiano, for that very thoughtful opening statement. Can I have a motion to open the meeting to the public for all matters?
So moved.
So moved by Council Member Coordinator, second by Al Kawadi. All those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. The motion carries. Mrs. Kraus?
Anyone wishing to address the Township Council may do so by sending an email to ckraus@lfnj.com. The email must provide your name and address for the record. At this time, there will be a 10-minute recess, which will allow the public to send comments and questions via email. At the end of the recess, the meeting will reconvene, and all proper emails will be read into the record. The Council President will determine if a response is needed, and if so, shall direct said response. Once the process is complete, we will return to the regular order of business.
Thank you, Mrs. Kraus. At this time, we'll recess for 10 minutes, which would mean we resume at 7:20. Thank you. for your patience during the recess so that we can obtain questions and comments. Mrs. Kraus, at this time, who responded?
We received comments from Renee Shapiro, from Luis Fernandez, Kevin Barry. We also just received a statement from Howard Lipoff, and also Shannon from 58 Hudson Street.
Okay, so for the record, can you read the statement from Mr. Barry first, please?
Can I read them?
Oh, you have?
Is it easier for me to read them?
You know what, Mrs. Kraus, the mayor has it, so Mayor Damiano, read the statement from Mr. Barry, please, for the record.
Will do, Council President. Ms. Kraus forwarded the emails to me, and it just may be clear if we read them here into the record. Kevin Barry, address 110 Island Ave, Little Falls, New Jersey. Statement is, I would like to thank the mayor and council and police chief for their thoughtful and sincere statement on the murder of Mr. Floyd. We are fortunate to have them running our town.
Mayor, can you please read the statement from Mr. Lipoff?
Yes, Howard Lipoff, 161 Main Street, Apartment F, Little Falls, New Jersey. I want to thank the mayor and council for the excellent statement that was made. It helps to show that Little Falls is a town that stands up to bigotry and racism.
Mrs. Kraus, there was, Mayor, there was one other individual that wanted a statement. Was that?
Yeah, we have a message
Sorry.
from Sharon Zerberg,
Read that for the record,
58
Mayor.
Hudson Street, Little Falls, New Jersey. States, is Little Falls considering creating a community citizen review panel for the Little Falls Police Department?
Okay, that's a question. We'll hold off on answering that question just yet. Let's entertain the questions from Mr. Fernandez first. And Mr. Fernandez, those are excellent questions. So Mayor, his first question, will you take, please? And I'll take the second part of that question.
Yes, Louis Fernandez from 54 Harrison Street, Little Falls, New Jersey. Says, Mr. Mayor, has the township seen an increase in the second quarter of delinquencies taxes unpaid due to the COVID-19 and the difficult financial times? If so, is the percentage of delinquent owner more than anticipated? And to answer the first portion of that question, I actually had similar concerns going into, or as this quarter concluded, with even greater concerns for the third quarter as we see our next quarter approach. But to answer the questions with respect to the second quarter, because, again, I had these concerns, I had actually reached out to our tax collector and asked for an analysis to be performed, and she did a very thorough and thoughtful analysis. And what was done, and just so everybody has a clear understanding of the figures that I am talking about as of the particular dates, what the tax collector did is she did it as of the last day of the grace period for both 2019 as well as 2020. So what that means is that for 2019, she used May 10th, 2019, because there was a 10-day grace period, and oftentimes many payments come in within the 10-day grace period that is authored by, or offered by statute. Now with the increase to it being the full month by statute, she used June 1st, 2020, because there was a 1-month permissible extension. And that is the comparison that I will be using, so May 10th of 19 and June 1st of 2020. Now, I can read the exact dollar amounts, although the dollar amounts I believe are less important than the percentage collected, because each year the dollar amounts that are being collected by taxes change, and what makes up our total amount sought per quarter is different. But for the second quarter of 2019, the township collected $11,892,697.26. I'm sorry, that was the total levy. What was paid was $11,043,074.47. What that left was an open amount of $849,892.79 for a collection rate of 92.85%. with 7.15% remaining open. In 2020, again as of June 1st of 20, the levy amount was $11,967,404.90, with a total amount paid of $11,260,612.16, leaving a balance open of $707,792.74, for a collection rate of 94.09, with a remaining open percentage of 5.91. So interestingly, the amount collected is actually up substantially by about $215,000, with actually less amount open, although there was a greater amount being levied. So we have actually seen a 1.5% change approximately in the amount collected in 2020, with that number being a 1.5% higher this year than it was in 2019. So interestingly, while I myself was certainly anticipating there being some issues with collections in the second quarter, and again, even more so in the third, interestingly, the amount collected was actually a greater percentage this year over last year. That said, that does not mean that the void that we have felt in our building department revenues, in our court revenues, and all of the other revenues that the municipality receives is not going to leave a void in our pocket at the end of this year. So we will have to continue to be very careful and prudent about spending. We will have to continue to monitor all of our expenses, and maybe try to even consider additional ways to generate additional revenues, which of course is easier said than done, but something that is always being discussed and on the forefront of our minds. So I hope that provides a thorough analysis of the 2019 versus 2020 collections.
Thank you, Mayor Damiano. Mr. Fernandez, that's an excellent question, because that's really the million-dollar question to ask, and that's always on our minds. Your second part of that question is regarding Resolution E. This was a last minute. It's very rare that we put something on last minute. If you know, from the 3 years or so I've been council president, I hardly ever do it. I don't think it's a proper thing to do when you put something on last minute. However, during the COVID crisis here, this particular enterprise, this gas station on 46, this has been going on for about 10 years, and he's been, that individual has been paying the town a performance bond, and he satisfied all his requirements. The last requirement was a $27,000 check that he had a right to us for the COA development part that he owed. So everything is satisfied. So instead of making that establishment wait another 2 weeks, I decided to put it on this evening so he won't have to pay his performance bonds premium, to answer that question. Mayor, we'll go to Ms. Shapiro's questions.
Council President, there's one more question
Yes.
by Mr. Fernandez.
Go ahead.
The third question is, Mr. Mayor, Ordinance 1388 mentions Phase 1 and Phase 2. How many more phases are there for the project to be completed? If there are more phases, how much money are we talking about? So that was the next question. There's also one more after that.
Okay.
And
You
if
want to
I'm-
address the phases questions on 1388?
Absolutely, Council President, if I may. The phases that are being referred to in ordinance number 1388 had to do with the original plan for the streetscape that was proposed several years ago. I believe Boswell Engineering prepared for us the original draft of the map and the area in which we were looking to focus our first phases of our streetscape. And if I am correct in recalling, I believe there were about 6, possibly 7 phases that were targeted and highlighted as separate phases for the streetscape project, which we are looking to focus along some of our more main streets, including Main Street, Patterson Ave, Maple Ave, and then continuing in each direction on Main Street, primarily west, at least to start from there, and then back east. It includes a little bit of Union Ave, heading towards the railroad station to make that more pedestrian-friendly. But as far as the phases go, what Boswell did at the time was they looked at the amount of funding that we were receiving from DOT grants over the course of the past prior years, and oftentimes we were receiving in the mid-$200,000 range in grants. And what we had done is they figured that if we were able to obtain a number of grants over the next handful of years, we'd be able to get this project done in possibly 6 to 7 years with each grant, and that's what the phases were in reference to. It turns out that we've actually been very fortunate in getting larger DOT grants, which we are very thankful for, and we've actually been able to cover more ground per year than we thought. Now, when you ask how much are we talking about and how much money are we going to spend on this, fortunately, most of the money that is being spent is actually through DOT grants. These are grant-funded projects. This is where previously the municipality had focused on streetscape improvements to individual roadways and complete streets, such as Morningside Circle was part of it. Jacobus Ave had been done in the past, more recently Woodcliff Ave, and just very recently the Donato Drive area of town. We've since taken those same grant funds and allocated them towards Main Street and our streetscape improvements in those areas. So we hopefully are talking about tens of millions of more dollars being directed in this way over the course of the next decade. But that, of course, would be largely funded through grants that we receive from the New Jersey State DOT and similar grants. So again, hopefully the answer is we have millions and millions of more dollars to spend on this, because I really do think it beautifies a town. But again, this will be done over time as we are able to receive grants to offset these expenses. And so I hope that addresses that question. And Council President, the final question from Mr. Fernandez is, when do you expect the public to attend the meeting in person?
Mr. Fernandez, as far as the public attending the meeting, we may be getting closer to that, but it's still an unknown as far as our governor has said 25 people, and at this point, it would be hard to just allow 25 people. If the 26th, 27th person wanted to come to the meeting and we had to say no, that wouldn't be fair, and that would be inappropriate. There's also still safety. There's only 3 people here, Mr. Kusia, myself, and the mayor, and we're quite a distance apart from one another. We hope to soon, under the guidance of the governor, to be able to go back to having the regular meetings with the public here. We definitely miss having the public, but the primary responsibility of government is to protect safety of its residents and also of the public officials who are here. So thank you for those great questions. I appreciate it very much. We're going to move on to the questions by Ms. Shapiro, Mayor, and I think she sent in numerous questions. Would you like to start with the first question? Removal of the dead wires, number 1.
Yes, so this is something that I've spoken to Ms. Shapiro about in the past, and then have had since countless discussions, really, with PSE&G, with some utility companies, and with our own attorney. And I will tell you, the issue here with the wires, the dead wires on a lot of the telephone poles throughout town, is that a lot of them are decommissioned wires, a lot of them are completely out of service, a lot of the ones that you see looped up 100 times in one area and kind of bound together in one ball, a lot of them are dead wires. The problem is, there is no one person in particular that is responsible for or in charge of the dead wires on the poles. They've kind of just become decorations, unfortunately, not sightly ones, but decorations, in that they are there. We have no real ability to remove them in any sort of orderly fashion. Everybody and all the utilities all claim that it's not theirs, it's not their responsibility, so they remain there. And unfortunately, I don't think there's many options for us in having these removed. And I will agree, they are extremely unsightly. As a little bit of a background and history on this, at one point I met with PSE&G to discuss relocating all of our wires, at least in the central area of town, underground. And I got a very, very rough quote, and almost choked when I heard the number, of $20 million to relocate just a couple hundred yards of the wires. And in asking how that number could possibly be so high when I see other towns with underground wires, the answer is because the infrastructure for underground wires is already in place in many of those towns. The other issue that we actually face here in Main Street is our Main Street is not nearly as wide as many of the main streets or main boulevards that many other towns around us have, where you may see underground wires. And why that's important is because if anyone has, and well, I suggest you stay away, but if anyone has been close enough to any of the construction projects in town underground, you would realize just how many utilities and sewer force mains and other sorts of infrastructure is already under the ground in what is a very narrow roadway to begin with. So there are times that they are working within already very, very tight confines. The water company, as you saw with the thankfully newly repaved road, but before it had been, had to jump back and forth across Main Street countless times just to move a couple hundred yards down Main Street here because of issues such as our very overpopulated with utility roadway here. So That is unfortunately and a figure, as far as I'm concerned, the $20 million figure. That is just something that, it's about how much our entire budget is on an annual basis. It is not an expense that we could absorb without it being a major, major, major impact to every single taxpayer in town. I think actually one that's so substantial that it would be, it's just, well, frankly, it's just impossible to include that type of figure in the budget.
Does the council members have any follow-up or comments to number 1? Number 2 is the Civic Center steps. I would gather Ms. Shapiro's asking about the steps that are in the back of the Civic Center on what, where we stand on what's going on with that, Mayor.
Sure. So there was, I can tell you something, there was a lot of discussion with our township engineer about this. We do have a couple of different plans. I believe, in talking to all of the council members lately, it seems that the general consensus overall is to move forward with the, there is a less expensive option. It's an aluminum option. It is anti-slip, several other things like that. It seems that the preference of all of the council members, or at least the majority, I don't recall if there was anyone that objected to it, moving forward with the aluminum style ramp and stairway in the back there. I know there was some discussions over whether or not a more aesthetically fitting type of ramp should be included, such as concrete or brick, to match the exterior of the building there. But the issue is, we do have a CDBG grant for $85,000 that would cover a large portion, if not all, of the cost of this project, especially if it were the aluminum steps. If we are to move to a more concrete stone type of looking walkway, the figures were staggeringly higher than that, at least the estimations. So I think, and I'm pleased that, it seems that we should move forward with the aluminum stairway here. I believe that the cost will be far less. It may be entirely covered by the cost of our grant. So I am pleased that hopefully that will be in the works relatively soon, hopefully in time for us to reopen and get everybody back in that building.
Does the council have any comments, questions, or any follow-up on item number 2, Civic Center steps? Question number 3 by Ms. Shapiro. Update on all approved redevelopment starts when Rainbow, Stevens, and RR, Mueller, etc. Okay, Mayor.
Okay, I will try my best to very, very, very briefly address the development that I believe we see on the horizon. So to start with Rainbow, I believe that is the Singac redevelopment site that Ms. Shapiro is referring to, and they are in the final phases of obtaining permits. In fact, I was on the phone with PSE&G today, who had some issues, or not issues, had some delays on their end, sending some paperwork to the county, and the county is going to be issuing the permits that they need so that the developer can begin buttoning up all of the permits that they need to begin their demolition, as well as the then rebuilding of the, or really redevelopment of that entire site. As far as Stevens and RR, I believe is Railroad, at Stevens and Railroad, there is a project that is anticipated. I do know that there was some discussion between the developer and the Council on Affordable Housing, and the Joe Burgess serves as our court master for the affordable housing. There were some discussions amongst them regarding the payment in lieu of the obligation to build and things such as that. And again, that's being worked out between them. As a blanket statement, I will say here and now that my position has remained the same on all affordable housing obligations in the municipality, that if a developer can negotiate a deal with the court master and the courts that allows them to build a reduced number of affordable housing units within their site for one of several reasons and thresholds that they need to meet, such as the project is just not financially possible without some sort of leeway being provided, et cetera, but that they are able to negotiate a deal on their own. I would not stand in the way of that, but I would also not assist and further their arguments that there should be no obligation to build these units. So that has been my position. It continues to be, and that is the status on the Stevens and Railroad. I believe some final negotiations are underway between the developer and the court master. As far as...
hold on, Mayor, a second.
Yes.
Any questions or comments regarding the the update on all approved redevelopment from the council? Okay. we're going to go to number 3A, which is Patterson Avenue new development. And to answer that, the Patterson Avenue new development is a council-approved project. It's a redevelopment. And the last that we spoke to those concerns, they're hoping to get plans to the council for them to take a look at that and move that project forward. The council, along with the mayor and the administration, is anxious to get that program, that development going as soon as possible. Mayor, number 3B, Stevens End, Maine.
Stevens and Maine. There is no proposed project there that I am aware of at this time. I do know that the property owner, as most have seen, has removed the gas tanks. I believe there is some environmental work occurring in that area, but aside from that, that is the extent of the information that we've been provided at this time, and there's just environmental work ongoing up at that site.
Does the council have any input on Stevens and Maine? I guess nobody else knows anything else about Stevens and Maine. Thank you, Mayor. Anything happening, 3C, the question is, anything happening with the Walgreens property? So, Mayor, if you can enlighten us, if you have any information that you'd like to share with this governing body about the Walgreens property, we'd be enlightened to hear it.
Sure. So unfortunately, no, I have no enlightening information other than I do know that the owner of the Walgreens site has also purchased the property next door to the Walgreens site to the left. But aside from that, there have been, that may be connected or not. There's been nothing presented to myself or the administration here regarding the Walgreens site or the house next door at all. So unfortunately, no.
Okay, Mayor. We're going to move to item number 3D, Stanley Street construction.
Sure. So Stanley Street construction, I believe what Ms. Shapiro is referring to is the parking lot improvements that we are looking to make along Stanley Street, including the PNC lot and the first 3 homes on Stanley that the municipality has previously closed on. As I announced at the last meeting, we are in the final stages of negotiations with PNC. Unfortunately, PNC, as many very large organizations do, have many layers and steps that they need to get through each and every time that a counterproposal is exchanged. I am waiting to hear back now from them and through our council about the final figures and the final agreement as to the purchase price and whether or not they'll be permitted to use a certain number of spaces during banking hours, et cetera. So we're in the process of finalizing that negotiation. Once we are able to purchase the PNC lot from them, as I said, we own the first 3 homes. We will need to go into the engineering phase, get a plan for a parking lot there, and before we finalize all of that, something I would like to do, and I was hoping to be able to do this in person, was to have a town hall for public input regarding our downtown parking and what we might expect there, how we might be able to improve it, et cetera. It was originally presented here, and I was very clear that day that it was a preliminary plan at the time. These plans still do remain somewhat preliminary. It does include the possibility of the old municipal building being included in our downtown parking improvements, because unfortunately, it seems that we've gotten little to no interest in the building. Again, that is subject to change as always, but it seems there's been little to no interest in that. So having a complete downtown parking plan is something that I would like to develop, and I would like to have some additional public input on that to make sure that the concerns and issues that some residents may have are able to be brought to light, and if possible and if appropriate, we may very well be able to address them and include them in our final plan.
Does the council members have any follow-up questions or comments regarding 3D Stanley Street construction? Number 4, update on MSU, which was Montclair State University, new entranceway. Ms. Shapiro, as you may or may not know, the mayor and myself sit on the planning board. I don't know if you'd really call this a new entranceway. It's a road that is going to connect the Montclair State University to the office building. It's noted as, we often call it the green building, but it's the large building that's on Route 46. It's the Overlook building, and so that their personnel could go back and forth. The Montclair State University has offices in that building. Mr. Kilpatrick, the chairman of the planning board, did a wonderful job navigating and working with also the residents of Clifton's concerns regarding that roadway, and as well as Little Falls' concerns with that roadway. At the end of the day, the Montclair State University had all the right in the world to put that roadway on their property. Mayor, do you have any follow-up on that roadway in Montclair State?
Councilman, just that, and you hit the nail on the head there at the end, that their application before the Little Falls Planning Board was done so more as a sign of good faith to make sure that any little modifications that we may have liked to see included in the roadway would be, such as, for example, we had requested that a fire hydrant be placed along the roadway, and they had graciously agreed to do that, although one may not have ever been required in the first place, and we may not have even had an ability to require them to do so. But in coming before the planning board, they were gracious to agree to really, they were very responsive to all of our requests. And like you said, they had every right to build that roadway. It was essentially being built as of right. The one thing they were seeking a variance for was actually reducing the size of the roadway, which is, of course, always something that we look to do to reduce speeds on roadways and control traffic even further. So aside from that, the one variance that they technically or may have needed was really done so as an accommodation to us anyway. So really, it was a variance-free application, and they built as of right. So that's the status.
Council members have any comments or follow-up to the roadway at MSU? We'll move to item number 5, which we've discussed. When will council meetings go back to REG, which I mean these regular meetings? That was discussed with Mr. Fernandez. Does the council members have any follow-up comments regarding that item? Okay, we'll move to item number 6, budget. Is it on the website to print, question mark? If not, when will it be made available? If I'm not mistaken, our budget is on the website. Is that correct, Mayor, Mr. Kusia? Yes. Right? It is.
Council President, that is correct. You can follow, actually, the easiest way to do this is type in 2020 budget in the search bar. It will be one of the, and I'm going to do it myself right now so I don't speak out of school. If you search 2020 budget, yeah, there are only 3 things that come up. One of them is my mayor's message. The other one is the 2020 introduced municipal budget presentation. The other one is township budgets. If you click on the township budgets link all the way back to 2008, the adopted budgets as well as the introduced budgets are all on the township's website, and including the 2020 adopted budget and the introduced municipal budget. So both of those are available on the township website now.
Are there any follow-up questions or comments regarding that item from the council? Number 7, Towns Marketplace, application, rates, rules and regulations will be on web page when? And if I'm, again, not mistaken, I think, correct me, Mr. Kusia or Mayor, this is on our web page under the codes, what the application rates are. Am I not correct in that?
The fees are listed in the code.
The fees are listed there. And Mrs. Kraus, with our marketplace, have all the vendors paid their application fees? And
Yes, applications and fees continue to come in for all of the vendors, and they're all up to date.
Councilwoman Sieber, you have any follow-up to that item?
Yeah, so, again, it's all in ordinance. The fees are posted. If there's any specific vendors that are interested, they can reach out to myself. My email address is on the town website, and we're happy to send off those rules. I'll give a quick update on how everything went during my report later.
Mayor, do you have any follow-up to that Towns Marketplace?
More so than just, well, not so much follow-up other than to say that I attended this weekend's market. My wife was ready to kill me when I got home with how much I spent there, because I certainly shopped in excess at every single stand because it was incredible. But aside from that, I have no additional comment.
For the residents' personal information, if those that want to get the cherry pie, please go to the marketplace before the mayor goes, because he takes all the cherry pie. So you may want to get there a little bit earlier, and it's quite good. Open discussion on $700,000 grant will happen when? So Mayor, would you like to talk about our $700,000 grant?
$700,000 grant. I believe the only $700,000 grant we got was a streetscape DOT grant.
Right.
It's already in the ordinance and it's been done.
Right, oh, okay, I just wanted to confirm that We received one $700,000 grant. That is part of the streetscape ordinance. I believe it's 1388 off the top of my head, if that's correct. Ordinance 1388, the one that is on for tonight's meeting. When will it, I guess Grant will it? The question is, Grant will happen when? Again, the final engineering needs to be done for the streetscape improvement. And once the engineering is done, we can go out to bid on that project and get that streetscape underway, get in our beautiful lighting, our new sidewalks, our new curbs, our new, buffers, and we can really be in some good shape in beautifying our downtown.
Item number, does the council members have any questions or follow-ups to the $700,000 grant? Question number 9, rec center air conditioning, and the mayor will comment on this, but we're very happy to see this happen for two main reasons. One, our children who will be, unfortunately not this year, but soon be going, hopefully, using the facility for camp and for activities, and even men's basketball or other activities and the senior activities, will finally have a state-of-the-art air conditioning. And also, it would probably could be used for a cooling center. God forbid if the temperatures rise too high, it could also be a place that individuals could go, those that don't have air conditioning, cool down. Mayor, would you like to follow up to 9?
Sure. So my only follow-up to number 9 would be, we did have a very small change order associated with our recreation center's air conditioning. Originally, there was going to be a control panel located inside the building. There were some concerns as the project moved along that it could be subject to getting hit by balls or kids or different, athletes playing different games, and we didn't want to see it get damaged. So we are simply relocating that outside, a little bit of waterproofing involved there. But that was one minor change order to this project. But again, that was to ensure that the electronics on this really remain in good health for a longer period of time. The only other thing that I'd like to add to our rec center air conditioning, and this is true for really all of our HVAC systems and all of our municipal buildings throughout town, is we are looking into, as part of the CARES Act grant funding that we received, adding a UV light, I guess, virus and bacteria, I don't want to call it filtration system, but a UV light that kills bacteria and viruses and different things like that as it passes through the system in the air exchanger. So adding something like that to this project, as well as our municipal building and other municipally owned buildings, is something that we are looking into and something that may also be done to add on to this project. Really, again, to keep all of us even healthier and safer in the future in all of our buildings.
Councilman Quaddi, do you have any follow-up with the air condition?
No.
Okay. We're going to move to item number 10, concerts, and I would gather this is concerning the ABC concerts that are held in the summer that we all enjoy. I imagine the question is, when can they happen? I imagine, because all it says is concerts, but I gather that's what the question is. Mayor, could you enlighten and give us what you think can happen?
Sure. So at this point, we are unfortunately held to and bound by the governor's executive orders, which does not permit a gathering in excess of 25 outside for a non-approved purpose. Again, I know there's been discussions about, how come people can gather at beaches, or how come people can gather in state parks? There's certainly more than 25 people at the beach. And the answer that I have to that is simply that is one of the carve-outs and one of the exceptions to the governor's executive order, so it is permitted. Unfortunately, although I do have a good relationship with the governor, he has not included Little Falls summer concerts as an exception yet. Something like that may eventually be, or we may see the numbers expand. I have been in touch with ABC a bit, and again, I would hate to see the entire summer concert series canceled in one fell swoop. So we may have to work here on a week-by-week or every other week type basis here, moving us along, and only cancel if necessary. Of course, like everybody, I think at this point, I am hopeful that restrictions will eventually loosen up as far as the number of individuals who may be permitted to gather for an activity. And if that does happen, and when that does happen, I would love to see us get, if not our entire concert series in, at least the latter portion of it.
Thank you, Mayor. There was two, I guess, amendments, or I wouldn't say amendments, additional questions. And Council Member Coordinator, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Can you address the mail-in ballots? And the reason why I asked that, residents, is we're having a little issue with our audio and our text stuff tonight. So, Councilwoman Coordinator, can you, Councilwoman Coordinator, can you address mail-in ballots and census, please?
Well, let me address census first.
Okay.
Of course, and I think in our last council meeting, I think we talked about, the difference in what different communities get as federal funds based on the numbers reported in the census. And just right now, in terms of the money that Passaic County got from the federal government for COVID-19 from the CARES Act versus, say, what Morristown has gotten, we got significantly more money because of what our population was in the population of Passaic County versus Morristown. And that is a result of who sends back their census. So you're actually just, taking money out of your pocket and throwing it away, or out of the pocket of the town, which then helps you by not filling out your census. So the mayor could correct me if I'm wrong with this percentage, but I think that Little Falls is at 68% complete, Mayor?
Yeah, I believe we're in that range. I know we are not performing as well as I would certainly like, but yeah, I believe that's about the figure that I've seen last.
Yeah. It's 67, 68%. I'm sorry, I don't have the exact number in front of me, which is somewhat higher than the state, in line what we've done in the last census, but we really have to do better because, especially for federal aid that we get for our schools and also state aid, it's very dependent on how we send back the census and what our numbers are. And so I really encourage everybody, if you haven't filled out your census, please do so. If you haven't received a census to fill out, my email is on the website. Please reach out to me, and I will follow up with the county committee that I'm part of on the census. We have been given an extension. It should have been cut off a few months ago. I have not gotten a date as yet when it will be cut off, but I do encourage everybody to fill out the census. In terms of mail-in ballots, the primary that's coming up on, I believe, July 7th is going to be totally a mail-in ballot primary. So if you are a registered Democrat or a registered Republican, you would have received a mail-in ballot to vote for the primary. And so it's very important that you exercise your right to vote and do that mail-in ballot. We have a very, very good history in New Jersey and in Passaic County in Little Falls on mail-in ballots. And that's really been a growing opportunity for our seniors, for our people who maybe can't get out. So the whole issue of mail-in ballots is very important. At this juncture, there's no specific information due to COVID-19 on what Election Day is going to look like in November. Right now, they're talking a hybrid of a push for more mail-in ballots, and of course, to also have at least one polling station. New Jersey, for the last 2 years, has been very, very strong at developing our mail-in ballot.
Thank you, Councilmember Coordinator, for that great clarification. The 12 questions that the council and the mayor answered this evening, along with the staff, were sent in by Renee Shapiro, president of the Little Falls ABC. There was another question or a comment that was sent in by a resident, and for the record, Mayor, can you please read the resident's name?
Absolutely.
Just bear with us.
This is from Shannon Zerberg.
Can you spell the name for the record, Mayor?
Zurbrugg.
Thank you.
She lives at 58 Hudson Street, Little Falls. The question is Little Falls considering creating a community citizen review panel for the Little Falls Police Department?
Mayor?
Sure. So what Little Falls has done, and our police chief, Steve Post, has been incredible and really taken the bull by the horns with this and taken lead in doing this for our municipality, is that we went through a rigorous accreditation process that really took place over a number of years. And through that accreditation process, there are policies and procedures in place here in Little Falls and other accredited townships or municipalities that are more intense than some other surrounding townships or cities, in that there are a number of onerous requirements that our police department is required to go through. It includes various trainings. It includes providing updates to this accreditation over a period of time and seeking reaccreditation. I believe it's every 3 years. All of this information can be found on our township website. I believe that upon review of that and people having a very good understanding of the accreditation process and what goes into it and all of the information that has to be submitted by the municipality, that I believe a lot of the concerns that are raised in this regard may very well be answered. And Council President, if I may, just to come a little bit off topic, I received a voicemail today from a concerned resident asking that the township immediately implement the Township Police Department immediately implement 8 particular items that they believed were very important. One of them being no chokeholds, which has been, a major topic of conversation. And what I can say is that, unfortunately, I wasn't provided with contact information for this resident that left the voicemail. It was simply a message. That is one thing that sticks with me, really off the cuff. And the short answer to that, as well as the other 7 things that this individual addressed, is that all of those things are already addressed by our police department, whether it be through the accreditation or having previously been addressed. So many of the concerns that residents have may be diminished, or not that the concern is diminished, but that the issue of the concern remaining may be diminished by reading just the accreditation process and the information pertaining to accreditation on the township website, because what the standards that our department is held to are much higher than that of some other surrounding departments.
Thank you, Mayor, for the follow-up to that question. Does the council members have any comments or follow-up to the last question? At this time, can I have a motion to close for public comment?
So moved.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Coordinator, second by Councilmember Kawadi. All those in favor of closing to the public signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Items to be discussed is, for Mayor, we got item number 1, resolution approving change order for the Recreation Center air conditioning system upgrades, which I think you alluded to, and the Chapter 159 resolution, Passaic County CARES funding. Mayor?
Yes, so I think everyone has heard ad nauseum now the CARES funding that we are looking to, or that the county had received. That's the $87 million that the county received that was distributed to all of the municipalities. Little Falls received $842,142 in change in the first round of this funding. And we just need to simply pass a resolution entering into the agreement with the county so that we can be reimbursed for these funds. So, of course, I am strongly urging that we certainly pass this resolution so that we are entitled to the reimbursements that we spend on COVID-related expenses.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I have a motion to approve resolutions A through F?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Coordinator, second by Councilman Vanchery. So this is to approve the resolutions of A through F. Mrs. Kraus, call the roll.
Councilmember Coordinator?
Yes.
Councilmember Kawadi?
Yes.
Councilmember Seaver?
Yes.
Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scoba.
Yes. Mrs. Kraus, can you please read the following statement?
I At this time, each ordinance will be read by title. There will then be a 5-minute recess to allow for comments to be sent via email on any of the ordinances being considered to ckraus@lfnj.com. At the end of the recess, the meeting will reconvene and all proper emails will be read into the record. The council president shall determine if a response is needed, and if so, shall direct said response. Once the process is complete, there will be a one vote for all of the ordinances.
So for the public, the 5-minute recess will be for all ordinance 1385, 1386, 1387, and 1388. So at this time, we'll take a 5-minute recess and wait to see what comes in. Thank you. Okay, we're back now. Can I have a motion to close to the public hearing on the ordinance of 1385, 1386, 1387, and 1388?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Sieber, second by Councilmember Coordinator. All those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Mr. Kuchar, can you go and read the titles of each of the 4 ordinances, please?
Yes, Council President. Second reading and public hearing of ordinance 1385, an ordinance entitled Bond Ordinance to authorize the reconstruction of a portion of Micklejohn Avenue from Main Street to Wycliffe Lake Ave. Ordinance number 1386, ordinance entitled Bond Ordinance to authorize the undertaking of various public improvements and the acquisition of new, additional, or replacement equipment and machinery and new automotive vehicle, including original apparatus equipment. Ordinance 1387, an ordinance entitled Bond Ordinance to authorize the undertaking of the 2020 Road Improvement Program. And ordinance number 1388, an ordinance entitled Bond Ordinance to authorize the undertaking of streetscape improvements at Main Street, Phase 1 and Phase 2.
Before I ask for a roll call, does any council member have any issue with any ordinance that they do not want to vote on if we group, in grouping the 4 ordinances together? Can I,
Council President, before,
Mayor?
just to be clear, can we have Ms. Kraus confirm that no emails were received in response to this?
Mrs. Kraus, any emails by any residents?
No, no email.
Okay, let the record show there were no questions or comments coming in on the 4 ordinances, 1385, 1386, 1387, and 1388. Can I have a motion to approve the following ordinances, 1385, 1386, 1387, and 1388?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Coordinator, second.
Second.
Second by Councilman Vanchery. Mrs. Kraus, please call the roll.
Councilmember Coordinator,
Yes.
Councilmember Kawadi,
Yes.
Councilmember Sieber,
Yes.
Councilmember Vanchery,
Yes.
Council President Scoba.
Yes. We'll move to council topics for discussion. Councilwoman Coordinator, do you have anything for this evening?
Well, I would like to just start off by reiterating and adding my support for the statement that Mayor Damiano read on behalf of the mayor and council and chief post and our police department. We are blessed to live in a caring community with a community-oriented police force who makes us feel safe and respected. That's my reality. Unfortunately, there are many African Americans that they do not have that reality. And the horrific murder of George Floyd has shocked the nation and the world, and that event has ignited a national and worldwide call for change. And I hope and pray that his death will help raise awareness and that we will be able to address institutional racism. And that may be the only thing that will erase that terrible image that we saw from our minds. That's really all I have to say for tonight.
Councilmember Vanchery?
Thanks, Council President. Again, thank you, Mayor, for reading the statement from not only the council and yourself, but also Chief Post and the Little Falls Police Department. It's good to see that as a township, we understand what's going on, and we're actually making a statement so that folks in our town know that we do care about this and we want to see change, as Councilwoman Coordinator just reiterated. Just a couple things on my end. I did want to thank several folks. A few weeks ago, due to COVID-19, unfortunately, we could not have our Memorial Day Parade as well as our normal services that we do every year to honor those who lost their life protecting our way of freedom. But what we were able to do was a modified ceremony. And I want to thank the American Legion Post 108 and Herb Brickta for pulling together a Facebook Live session that was modified, of course, because of the timing and what was going on. But it was a nice way to honor our veterans, and we wanted to make sure that they were recognized on that special weekend. I do also want to thank Councilman Kawadi, who volunteered his time to help film the ceremonies in addition to Facebook Live. And then I also want to thank Stake Valley High School, because through some discussions with them, we were able to take the video that Councilman Kawadi secured for us and air it on PVTV during the holiday weekend, and the school was nice enough to have it air throughout the rest of May. So for folks who were not as savvy on social media to follow Facebook Live on the American Legion site, they were at least able to watch the ceremonies, whether it was on YouTube through the Township website, but also on PVTV. And the one good thing, too, is we had some discussions with the high school. We're hoping for future events that we can work closely with the school to ensure that any kind of footage that we're doing for several events around town can also air on the cable access channel, because, like I said before, not everyone has the social media capability. So it's a nice way for some of our residents who cannot go on the internet, but they can actually watch it on TV. So just grateful for all the support there, and hopefully later this year, if we can do something, in terms of a parade to bring everyone together, just to, celebrate Little Falls and who we are, we'll do that. But for now, we've got to wait until we get that guidance from the governor and his staff. One other thing I did want to mention is, as I've stated, earlier this year, we were looking to secure a number of different town halls with residents to discuss speed humps on Jacobus and Van Pelt, as well as some four-way stop signs on several roads in town. Unfortunately, with social distance rules and some challenges doing things online, I'm working with the council president and the mayor, as well as the police department, to see if we can maybe reach out to residents via letters and emails to let them know about what we're planning, and see if we can get some questions through email and try to respond, because I'd love to keep the momentum going that we were trying to do in terms of slowing down some of the traffic in town. I don't want to wait too long. So it's something that I'm working on, and as I work with our transportation committee, trying to come up with solutions as much as we can to make sure that the stuff that we've presented to this council does move forward. So more details to follow, but it's just something I was hoping that this situation would taper down where we could bring people together, but it just seems like it's going to be a while. So we're starting to look at different scenarios. That's it for me.
Thank you, Councilman Vanchery. Councilman Kawadi?
Thank you, Council President. First, regarding Councilman Vanchery, it was my pleasure to shoot and edit the video commemorating Memorial Day. I was glad to do it, and it was great that the American Legion was able to find a way to properly recognize the individuals who lost their lives in service to our country, even though we're under the COVID-19 rules and regulations right now. So I was happy to be a part of that. I heard the mayor's statement. I wholeheartedly agree with what he had to say about the state of race relations in our country today. The state of our nation depends on our citizens, and since we're a nation of people, as a nation, that will always make us imperfect. But we're more imperfect if we believe that we cannot improve. We always need to strive to be better than we are today. And it saddens me to think that other Americans don't enjoy the same experience of being an American that I do. But we're still a young nation, and I'm hopeful that through listening, acting, and empathy, we can achieve the America that I would hope we all aspire to, where, as Dr. King dreamt, people are not judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Beyond that, we talked about today about the recreation center came up, and the changes that are going on at the rec center are going to be unprecedented. I look forward to seeing them happen. We talked about the air conditioning specifically. That building has been there as long as I remember. I grew up in West Patterson, but I came and played football here as a youth football athlete, and I don't ever remember there being air conditioning there. So the building's been there a long time, but we're finally getting the air conditioning that the residents of Little Falls deserve. And when the turf field is in, the recreation complex is going to be something that we can all be quite proud of, and up to the standards that our recreation department has set for so many years. Beyond that, litter cleanups are continuing, so please keep the town litter-free as best you can, and if you see the guys out there, just watch out for them because they're on the roads trying to make the town a cleaner place for all of us. And lastly, please check on anyone whom you feel might be in a dangerous situation because of the threat of domestic violence. We're all still spending a lot more time at home, and for certain people that can create a dangerous situation, and I would encourage anyone to just pick up the phone and let that person know that they have someone to reach out to if they need help. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kawadi. Yes, I concur with the cleanup program. You're doing a wonderful job, along with our coordinator and Mr. Simone's crew, who are out there every weekend. I think the town is about the cleanest since I've been living here for 30 years. So that's a very good program that you're running. Councilmember Sieber.
Thank you. So since our last meeting, we have now officially kicked off our Little Falls Market, the first township-run market. Really super excited and pleased to have brought it to the town, along with myself, our township event coordinator, Christine Hablett, and with great support from Councilman Al Kawadi. We've been able to pull off so far 2 weekends out of a total of 21, so still have a long runway to go. And some big thank yous to that, not only the entire council, but along with the support of the mayor. This would definitely not have come to fruition. Our chief post, Sergeant Janduso, and of course our OEM team, who also supplied some great support and volunteers with making sure we're adhering to safety guidelines, masks worn, no dogs, parking help. That was a great, tremendous support for us. And of course, DPW head, Phil Simone, along with Ron Campbell and the rest of our DPW workers, keeping everything clean and safe. And then in terms of how the market is going, total so far we have over 20 vendors signed up for the entire season, so they do come and go. Our first week we had 10 vendors. Yesterday, Sunday, we had 12 vendors present, so we do have some guest vendors going in and out. So I do encourage all of our patrons to check the market out weekly, because each week you will find something different and new. And also a special thanks to the Municipal Alliance. They did provide free shopping bags, reusable shopping bags, our first Sunday. I'm going to check out to see if we can get some more. But we handed them out to the first 100 people who came to the market, and it was a great pleasure to see those bags come back to be used again yesterday. So off to an amazing start, and this is truly, truly a group effort, and hopefully something that we can continue on for years and years to come, especially bringing this in at such a trying time makes me just so proud of all of us and all the people who showed up and wanted to participate and help these small businesses and get some fresh products. It was really heartwarming. So could never thank everybody enough for that. So don't forget next Sunday, it's 9 to 2 in the Town Hall parking lot. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Sieber. And it was quite interesting to see two old Mustangs pull up and park in the parking lot. And it is a very fine job you're doing, along with Christine Hablett's. I look forward to it, and many of our residents who don't feel comfortable going to supermarkets and buying their food definitely look forward to that. Mayor, as you know, we have many restaurants in our community that are having a difficult time dealing with the COVID crisis and trying to navigate their business and trying to figure out ways to keep their customers and trying to figure out ways to actually just stay in business. Are there any plans that you can bring forward to this governing body that you have on your mind to help that segment of our community.
Sure, Council President, thanks. I know this evening I didn't do a full-blown COVID update as I have in the past, and I will certainly address that question. I would just like to indicate or point out that as of this evening at about 7:30, the Township has not had a new COVID case reported since May 28th. That is now 11 days without a new positive case being reported in the Township. So with that said, I just want to thank our residents for continuing to be smart about this. While restrictions are loosened and while I want everybody to have an enjoyable summer, just be smart. COVID is still out there. So, in that regard, as far as dining goes, in response to your question, Council President, it is definitely something that since the governor has announced, the wheels began spinning for myself and our administrator and our building department, as far as working with and being as lenient as possible with our food establishments to offer outdoor dining. It is certainly something that I would and am willing to work with our restaurant owners as much as I possibly can to allow them to maximize surrounding outdoor space to serve, their customers. And I have already added to the emergency declaration that I filed back at the beginning of this COVID crisis, allowing for outdoor dining within the municipality. There are some guidelines and some restrictions. Some of the additional things that I may be considering opening up and willing to consider is there have been a lot of questions lately about utilizing parking lots or sections of parking lots for tables and for customers to eat there. And again, that wasn't part of my initial response and modification to the executive orders that we've entered here locally, but it's definitely something I'm willing to consider, and I hope that so long as we can figure out a way to ensure that the customers that are dining outside remain safe if they are in a parking lot, that it's certainly something that we're willing to consider. We just need to, again, make sure that they remain safe, make sure that we have nobody hurt because of this, but leniency is certainly something that I am leaning towards. And again, just to be clear, while you do have to, if you are a food establishment here in town, while you are required to file an application and request a permit here through our municipal building, there is no fee associated with this permit, with this application. It is simply a process in which we will be monitoring and ensuring that there is compliance for purposes of our health department, and to ensure that, again, although we are allowing this and trying to be as lenient as possible, that nobody goes too far or goes overboard. And again, the other major issue, of course, is liability. If the municipality is going to allow for outdoor dining, which we are certainly looking to do, I just want to ensure that, God forbid anyone were to get hurt, that the township doesn't become a target for a lawsuit for allowing this. So that, of course, is one of the concerns that is addressed in the emergency declaration that I have passed. But again, yes, I can't wait to help people get back towards this sense of somewhat normalcy and back on track. And, food has always had a special spot with me, so getting our fine dining establishments to everybody, again, as soon as possible is certainly something we're looking to do.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, can I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Coordinator, second by Councilman Kawadi. All those in favor of going into executive session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. For the public's information, we're going into executive session to discuss pending litigation. Thank you. Can I have a motion to return to open session, please?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Vanchery, second by Councilmember Coordinator. All those in favor of returning to open session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to that motion signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Can I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Kawadi, second by Councilmember Coordinator. All those in favor of adjourning this meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. This meeting is now adjourned.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Check the switch.
Good night.